married men, dating men who have many women, it didn't mean anything to me. All right. So, I am smiling because this is a long story. So, I was in life like everybody else, living their life, free, left school, free, started to go to the dance and the parties, the excessive drinking. I was the drinker of my crew. A quart a night. And let me tell you, God has a way of giving you an encounter that you cannot resist. When He is ready, you have to be ready. It's not if, but nor maybe when God is ready. And I can tell you that I lost my brother in 2014, and I at that time my mother got saved. It was a gruesome death. He was killed at his business place and got 13 gunshots. And it was a very, very gruesome time for me and my family. It was so gruesome that we actually left from where we were living, and of course we left and we went somewhere else to live. That's me and my mother and his daughter. And you know, I was going to church, I was going to fasting, because if I am being honest, it was going to church, Love Worship Center, that really got me through those hard times. To be honest, I was going, and one day I was standing at the altar, and this missionary came to me. And I remember at the time I was dating a gentleman, and I knew that he had more than one woman. It didn't matter to me. I wasn't the type to be one person. I never ever want to be the only person, to be honest, because I never have one person. So dating married men, dating men who have many women, it didn't mean anything to me. As I was standing at the altar during this time of my brother's death, and I was going to church with my mother a lot. Of course, my mother got saved because it was a very, very gruesome death. And God had spoken to her heart concerning some things, and she was filled everything before she was even baptized. Because the death was really a wake-up call for my family, and she got saved and had planned to get saved, I should say, but we were going to fasting, and I was going with her because, as I said, it was really a time that I found comfort in God, because I really never knew God like that, because I never grew up in church. All I knew in my life was round robin, dancehall, drink out. I was literally raised under a bar counter. I would come from school and I would be under the bar counter until my mother was ready to lock up, or I went home before her. But that was the life I knew. And so I wasn't a church girl. I wasn't in the church at all. I didn't even go to Sunday school, nothing like that. And so in attending these fasting services was the time that I really got to understand church and understand God somewhat. Because I remember when I was going to the altar, missionary Wilson, beautiful woman of God, and she came to me and she hugged me and she was crying. I am there. I'm not sure why she's crying, because as I said, I didn't know church, so I didn't know people could pick up things in their spirit or see your life. But this woman whispered to me and said to me that wherever I am going in the night, I should stop going. Now right away I know what you're talking about, because there's one place I was particularly going consistently at night, and it was just to this gentleman's house. And I also, she said something else too. I can't remember exactly what she said now, but she said something else. I can't remember what she said, but she said something pertaining to my, like there is something that was going to happen to me if I didn't stop going. Anyway, I listened to her at the altar and I cried there, and it was the first time I ever experienced people speaking to me, speaking what I was doing. So I was, crying and all of that, and I was like, whoa, I was in awe. And I left church and I don't remember nothing, so me cry. She talked to me, nothing. I went back there. And I tell you, I think it was a week after she told me that, or 2 weeks, I don't exactly remember. And I remember I had an incident at the house where another woman came to the house. Of course, nothing happened to me, to God be the glory. But it was a wake-up call. And I was like, whoa. I remember in the moment I was saying, God, if you get me out of this situation, I will not come back to this house. And to be honest, I did not honor my promise to God. It took me months to go back, but I did go back. And I was afraid to go back, but I did go back. But I think I only went back one time, if I'm being honest, or if I'm recalling correctly. And I was, whoa. Even in that, I still did not left out a sin. I even write down my name in the sea in that time, after getting that word to be baptized. So I guess I was caught up in the moment. Or not, it was really God. But I did not commit. And so because I knew I wrote down my name, I did not go back to church. My mother continued to go, and I continued in my life. I started drinking more because I was not healed from the death. And so I started to drink more. I started to party way more. I started to go way nude. It got worse. And so 2 years I was out there, from 2014, 2015. And then 2016, 2015, the year ending 2015, I was in so much mess. I was in bankruptcy. I didn't have any vision for my life. I didn't have a direction for my life. I didn't know where my life was going. I left school with 7 or 8 subjects I not even remember right now. I had my life in front of me. Like, my mother had vision for me to be so great, because I wasn't the brightest, but I could do my thing. And so she did not expect my life to turn how it turned out. And so I went from operating a bar, not what my family envisioned for me, but I went to operating a bar, to having 100, to having several different partners, to having different there's some different experiences than what I even envisioned for myself. And so I was in a time where I was lost. I was so lost. And so when I started to feel the weight of loss and not knowing where my life is going to lead, I started to cry, and I was so stressed out. And I found that the drinking was not too much. It wasn't too much of just the partying while I was drinking, but it was I didn't know it was depression at the time, but it was depression that I was in. And I remember I couldn't pay my bills. I couldn't find food to eat. I was in Rona, I've been and drink out and all of that, and I couldn't pay it. It was so much. It was just so much. And I'm like, what am I doing with my life? When did my life came to be like this? And I can tell you that when it became too much, I wanted to kill myself. But my suicide attempt wasn't where I wanted to take any pills, or I wanted to overdose, or even hang myself, or I didn't have the courage to do that. But I can tell you, I went to my bed every night praying that God don't let me wake up. Every single night, that was my prayer to God. Every night, that was my prayer to God, to not wake up the next morning, because it was so much. I didn't want to face the next day because it was so much, and I could not manage the burden of so much. And so I remember my mom, I think it was a Christmas, and I came home alone. So everybody else was out, and I came home alone, and I got an encounter with the Holy Spirit. And that's when my life turned around. I got such an encounter. It was so mighty. I remember it was a Thursday night. I don't remember which the date, but I remember it was a Thursday and it was in December. And I had an encounter that was so mighty. The Holy Spirit filled the room that I was in. I could not contain myself. And after that encounter that night, I didn't say anything to anybody in my household. And I started to take away all the naked clothes that I was wearing to the dance hall. And I started to, my sister was selling clothes at the time, and I gave her them to sell. Because of course I didn't have any money. So I was trying to sell the clothes that I had to the hot girls so I can get little funding. And I started to, when I started to clean my chest drawer, I did not have any clothes left. Because absolutely nothing I had was worthy of wearing. And this encounter was so great, I started to erase every single number out of my phone that name man and people man. Every number that did not serve me on this journey that I was going on. I'm not, this wasn't weeks after the encounter, this was just days after the encounter. That's how mighty it was. Every married man, every single man, every people man, good number got erased. Everybody that was looking, everybody, everything came from my phone. Friends that I know will not support me on this journey, I started to delete. And I started to delete because I couldn't afford to change my number at that time. So I started to delete and block. And I can tell you, even in getting that encounter and feeling the way I feel, I was not sure again if I wanted to go on the journey. And so I remember one night, my sister and my friends, they were planning, well, we had planned to go to a party. They did not know about the encounter. And so I took out my clothes because I am going to go to this dance, because at the last dance, can I tell you, I went. And I am the person who would normally dance sometimes, and I am the person who would drink the most. And I can tell you, I could not move a foot in that party, and I could not drink not even a cork of apple vodka, because I was the queen of apple vodka and cranberry arting, and I could not drink not even a cork full of apple vodka that night. My friends were wondering, and my sister was wondering what was wrong with me. It was God who came, and that party made me know that that's it for me and the world. The enemy had no more hold over me after that Thursday night. That was it. That was it. I can tell you, few months after getting that encounter, I started to go to Bible study, and I started to do the usual stuff that new converts do. And my friend died from suicide. She killed herself. Her soul rest in peace. And my friend took her own life, and so it was then I identified that the suicidal spirit, now that I know about spirits, I know that it was a spirit that was in our midst. And that spirit came for me first. But God had other plans for my life, and he had another arrangement for my life. And my friend took her life, and that broke me. But that did not break me to the point where I did not want to serve God. That broke me to the point where I wanted nothing with the world and everything with God. Because that showed me that I am purpose, and there is something in me that God wanted so desperately, that he came, he sent his Holy Spirit to arrest me in my bed so that I could be sitting here today testifying about it. I loved the world. The world nice, party nice, having every man at your beck and call is nice. But let me tell you something. The burden that comes with it, the weight that comes with it, because at that time I did not want the life that I was living, and it became a facade and a fake life. Because when I left school, it was to further my education. It was to become somebody who my family, especially I had nieces and nephews to look up to. For me, I wanted them to have somebody to look up to. And I, at that time, wasn't somebody to look up to. I would not want them to live the life I was living. But I can tell you that God is an amazing God, and there is nothing that God cannot do. Nothing. Of course, everything cannot be shared on this part of the series, but most definitely as we go through, you will hear other testimonies that I have had, because I've had so much encounters with the Holy Spirit, so much encounters with myself, knowing myself, relearning who I am, so much. But until next time, stay blessed and continue to look to God, who is the author and the finisher of your faith.